Alonso is going to have another lap now, and it will be dry, so Alonso is going to be able to set a representative time, I would imagine. And Fernando Alonso has taken pole position. Right then, so it's still dry for the time being as the 2017 Canadian Grand Prix is underway. What an absolute disgrace for Fernando Alonso. I don't care if he's in the McLaren, it's the Equal Formula 1 Cars Championship. He's been overtaken by Vettel. It's still dry. Vettel, full credit to him, he is still in second on the intermediate tyres when the track's bone dry. Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon Palmer, thank you. Thank you for crashing. Because that means we shouldn't lose too much track position. He's come out in third place. Kevin Magnussen is in a genuine third place. Oh, and there we go. The safety car has bolted, which means in a few seconds' time, Alonso, in theory, will be doing the same thing. But the track is wet and he's on dry tyres. But Vettel has passed Magnussen, but thankfully, Magnussen, he's passed Fernando Alonso. He's up into second place. But still, Magnussen is in fourth. The only drivers ahead of him are Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo and Sebastian Vettel. 5th and 6th. Okay, well Grosjean beaten by his teammate. Magnussen, thank you. Magnussen in 5th. A completely insane race. It's raining and the entire field has unanimously agreed to be out on dry tyres. But Sebastian Vettel, definitely a deserved winner, beating Ricciardo by 0.8 seconds. Right then guys, it's PSL here, and I'm here for part 8 in my Equal Formula 1 Cars Championship here on Motorsport Manager. Now last time out we had the Canadian Grand Prix, a mixed conditions race, and that was very exciting indeed. Magnussen, Grosjean, Lance Stroll, the big winners from that, but then you got the big losers, Fernando Alonso down in 13th, Hulkenberg down in 19th. These are people who really should have gotten at least a higher points finish. Alonso arguably should have won the race, but, well, a good strategy at the start, but then a very poor strategy from then on in. So that was quite unfortunate. But anyway, this time we've got the German Grand Prix. Now I'm looking at it, there's only 17 laps. It's a very low tyre wear circuit, and the tyre supplier is bringing the hardest tyres possible. So, who knows, maybe we could see another no-stop strategy like we saw a few races ago, some one-stop strategies coming into play. Who knows, but it could be a very exciting race with some very interesting and different results. Oh well, this is a momentous occasion. As you can see, we have maxed out the reliability on all of our parts. Now of course all the parts, because it's an Equal Formula 1 Cars Championship, obviously all the parts are spec parts just to make the cars as equal as possible, and they are equal in 1 lap pace. But as you can see, we have extended the reliability of each of the parts from 80% as they were as standard to 100%. So both of our cars have got perfect reliability, so it's unlikely that we're going to see one of our drivers retire from a Grand Prix, and also consequently it's unlikely that we're going to see any driver retire from any Grand Prix. And in fact we have seen very few retirements this season so far. In fact the very few retirements we have seen, I think pretty much all of them, if not all of them, have been from crashes. So yeah, reliability, that is the one downside, is we don't get car reliability issues, but I mean every pro is a con. Well, unfortunately, looking at the weather, it's meant to be an entirely dry race weekend. Sunny in practice and then overcast but dry for qualifying and for the race. So without further ado, let's head into the 8th race of this Equal Formula 1 Cars Championship, the German Grand Prix. So then here we are coming towards the end of practice, and Danny Kvyat is the second quickest in practice. And of course practice is largely irrelevant, as I've said in pretty much all of these videos, but still. Kvyat in second, and I think Kvyat is one of those drivers who, I don't think he's ever made it into Q3 in this series. I don't think so, I don't remember that being the case. He just feels like he's one of those guys whose name I read a lot as one of the drivers who's been eliminated. So who's going to set the first lap? I think it might be Sebastian Vettel who's going to set the first lap. But Lewis Hamilton has just beaten him, but looking towards the drop zone, because that's what matters in this opening bit. And once again, Grosjean is in the drop zone. And I think, for God knows how many times now, I mean, this is what, maybe the third, fourth time in a row that I think Romain Grosjean is going to be eliminated in Q1. And he hasn't even improved. And in fact, oh, Kevin Magnussen dipped into the bottom 5 there very briefly, but improved up into 11th place. But the people eliminated are Felipe Massa, Nico Hulkenberg, Stoffel Van Dorn, Romain Grosjean, and strangely, Esteban Ocon, who's a Grand Prix winner. Esteban Ocon was the slowest in qualifying. So here we go, straight into Q2. So Hamilton, he was the quickest driver in Q1, but we've seen in quite a few Grand Prix recently where Hamilton's the quickest in Q1 and Q2, and then Vettel normally takes pole position. At the moment though, what was that? Was that a 5/10 of a second gap? Yep, Hamilton is half a second quicker than Vettel. Magnussen looks like he's just going to be eliminated, but 11th place is quite a decent qualifying position because you don't get the negative benefit or the negative influence of getting into Q3. And there you go, I think the session's about to end. We're just waiting for Stroll to come into the pits. So, the drivers eliminated. Lawrence Stroll down in 15th, but it looks like he ran out of soft tyres. Julian Palmer's out, and then a good few tenths quicker than Palmer and Stroll are Danny Kvyat, Carlos Sainz, and Kevin Magnussen. So then, here we are in Q3, the top 10 shootout, the pole positions shootout. So who's going to be the first to set a lap? I think once again it is Sebastian Vettel who will be the first to set a qualifying lap, but he was not very quick in Q2. And there you go, once again, time and time this happens where Hamilton, he's the quickest in Q1 and in Q2, but then in Q3, Vettel's the quickest. In practice, he was okay. In Q2, he was dreadful. In Q1, he was alright, but in Q3, where it matters most, so Hamilton, he set a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2, and he has taken pole position from under Sebastian Vettel's grasp. Lewis Hamilton has taken pole position for the 2017 German Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel is only 39 thousandths of a second slower. Raikkonen in third, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Bottas, Alonso. Then you've got Ericsson in 8th, who's a good 9/10 of a second behind Alonso, but Ericsson, he did set his qualifying lap on the medium tyres. And then you got Pascal Wehrlein in 9th, who was on some very worn, extremely worn, unacceptably worn soft tyres come the end of qualifying. And then you got Sergio Perez, who's all the way down in 10th place. And sure, he was running some worn soft tyres come the end of the session, but still he is behind Pascal Wehrlein and Marcus Ericsson. And for that reason, you got to say that Sergio Perez, sure, he's 10 places ahead of his teammate, but that's not a brilliant position to be in for Sergio Perez, and also a bit of a disappointment in Q3. So then I'm going to put both of my drivers on the same strategy because it's the only viable strategy I can think of to do, considering we started outside of the top 10. And that is using the medium tyres. It's a 17 lap race. The medium tyres should last between 8 to 10 laps. We need them to do on average 8.5 laps. That should be doable, and then we can do a one-stop strategy. The hard tyres, there's no benefit to going on them because you can't do a no-stop strategy. Not unless we're behind the safety car for a lot of laps. And why would we go on the soft tyres? Well, actually, they can do a surprising amount of laps. Oh, I started this so confident that both of our drivers would do the same strategy. No, do you know what? I reckon... No, we'll put Magnussen on the softs and then the hards, just so we've got two different strategies going on, so we don't have both of our drivers double stacking. And, well, you know, just in case Grosjean's strategy isn't the best, then we'll have Magnussen doing one that may be better, maybe worse, who knows. So, the 2017 German Grand Prix is underway. So we got Kevin Magnussen in 11th. It looks like though he's coming under threat from Danny Kvyat in 12th. But look, Kevin Magnussen, he's found some space, and already he's up into 7th position. He's going to dive it up the inside of that Ferrari driver. And Kevin Magnussen, he started in 11th and already he's in 5th place, down into 6th. But he's going to thread it between a couple of drivers there. Kevin Magnussen, what a phenomenal start. He was up into 5th place, now in 6th. He's going to lose position to the Sauber driver, Pascal Wehrlein. Romain Grosjean, though, on the contrary, he's down into 20th, so he's had a dreadful start. Sure, he's only lost 1 place, and Palmer's on the softs. In fact, it wasn't even Palmer who was in last, it was Ocon who was in last, and he's up into 17th. Well, I thought it was weird how Ocon was starting so far down. Where is Kvyat? Kvyat's up into 9th, okay. Just interested to see how well he'll do, considering he was so quick in practice. So Magnussen, having done a lap, is in 8th place, now make that 7th. Should probably turn down the engine mode, just because I'd rather have a lot of spare fuel and then use up at the end. I'd rather have like a last few laps charge. That's rather what I would do. We're going to need to tell Grosjean to push on his medium tyres. Magnussen, we might want to tell him to do the same, but I'll leave it for the time being. Nico Hülkenberg has crashed. Well, Jolyon Palmer crashed in the previous Grand Prix, and now Hülkenberg, he's crashed in this one. And that is a shock. I wouldn't have expected Hülkenberg to have crashed. But anyway, 15 laps left to go. Magnussen, he's pretty much in no man's land. There's no one too near behind him or ahead of him. Magnussen, he's in 7th place, and Romain Grosjean's in 16th. Oh, well, look at that. Kevin Magnussen has just passed Max Verstappen. Oh, well, there you go. I was going to say, Kevin Magnussen, of course, you know, he's got softer tyres which are much less worn, but he's keeping tabs on the leaders. He's only 6.4 seconds behind the leader, Daniel Ricciardo. So Kevin Magnussen, he's got the raw speed, once again proving that this well and truly is an equal cars Formula 1 championship. On one lap pace, all of the drivers should be going the same speed. Of course, it is only the drivers which is the main pace differentiator. And there you go. So we got a few drivers in the pits, and Kevin Magnussen, albeit only briefly, is in 3rd place. Now, actually, I will be... Hang on, what are the... Okay, so Hamilton's on the hards, Raikkonen's on the hards, Bottas is on the hards. They're all on the hard tyres, which makes me think that even though we're going to do an extra lap, maybe an extra 2 laps than the front runners, if they're pitting onto the hards, we may as well do the same thing. The main reason that we were keeping up with the front runners in the first place was because we had less worn tyres and thus we had more pace. So, and now that advantage is going to be decimated, I think we won't be keeping tabs with the front runners like we were earlier on. So Kevin Magnussen in 3rd place, I imagine, will be coming in. Well, he's coming in on the same lap as Daniel Ricciardo, but not the same lap, strangely, as Sebastian Vettel. And Kevin Magnussen, he will rejoin in 13th place, just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. So Magnussen, he's come out right in between Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton. Well, there you go. Magnussen could be in contention for some very decent points. And Romain Grosjean, what to do with him? In fact, yeah, he's just started a lap. Well, he's done about half a lap, actually. So I think he will have to come into the pits. Well, not for the mediums. Yeah, he's worn out those mediums pretty quickly. 8 to 10 laps. Well, certainly we're on the lower end of that. I think Grosjean's going to have to come in for the hard tyres, because he's worn out those medium tyres much quicker than expectations. Yeah, I think we'll just have to stick Grosjean out on the hard tyres. I'm certainly glad that we sent that we sent Magnussen out at the start of the race on the soft tyres, because I think that is the better strategy. Generally, the front runners know what they're doing, is something I've discovered over the course of doing this series. So Grosjean is in 8th place, but of course he'll be losing a lot of positions. That means Magnussen will gain a place. Bottas has set the fastest lap of the race on the hard tyres, and Romain Grosjean has come out in stone dead last. So then, Lance Stroll from the lead of the race is coming into the pits. In fact, he's the only one of the temporary front runners to be in the pits. And in fact, Lance Stroll has come out behind Romain Grosjean. That's good news. But as you can see, so if you look at the race order, we've got Sainz from Massa from Ocon. But those guys, they all need to come into the pits. In fact, I imagine they will be this lap. Although apparently not. Apparently Carlos Sainz isn't at the very least, which is odd because his tyres have only got 22% of their life left. And no, in fact, none of them are coming into the pits. Sebastian Vettel is sort of the race leader. He's in 4th place, but if you look, he's got, well, his hard tyres are way more worn than Ricciardo's, than Hamilton's, Raikkonen's, Verstappen's, Magnussen's. I don't know what Vettel's done. I don't know whether he came into the pits earlier than everyone else. He certainly qualified in the top 10, so I don't really quite know what Vettel's done, but I think he'll have to come into the pits again at some point, and even if he doesn't, his tyres are going to be extremely worn. by the end of it. Yeah, he won't have tyres left by the end. He'll just be running on the rims. So we got Felipe Massa, who still hasn't stopped. He is coming into the pits this lap though, but I think he stretched those tyres too far, and as you can see, even Vettel's only 1.4 seconds behind. Ricciardo, who in my mind is the effective race leader, he's only 3.9 seconds behind. Magnussen is in a points place, and Felipe Massa has come into the pits. And Kevin Magnussen, he is still behind Kimi Räikkönen. He was actually a lot closer to Kimi Räikkönen. Although having said that, he's only 2 seconds behind. But no, I mean, one thing that is strange this Grand Prix is that we haven't had any tyre heating issues. As you can see, you know, even the tyre temperatures, I haven't told Magnussen to push on these hard tyres, and yet he's been fine with tyre temperatures. Grosjean's been fine as well, which I think has helped our pace a lot this race, because we haven't had cold tyres and we haven't had to push, which has worn out the tyres quicker. Generally, just this track and these track temperatures have actually worked to our advantage quite a lot. And doing the same strategy as the race leader, or certainly Magnussen doing the same strategy as the race leaders, as the front runners, has worked out quite well, because I mean, we've done the same strategy as Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes, and we're ahead of him. We're ahead of Bottas. I think we've got just a little bit more life left on our tyres, although you look at a lot of the front runners and they've got no tyres left. In fact, Sebastian Vettel, with just 2 laps left to go, is coming to the pits, and he's going to come out in what, in 9th place? He's come out way down the order. Kevin Magnussen's in 5th. I believe Vettel wasn't the only one of the front runners to be pitting then. Julian Palmer has set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Well, it is all kicking off this Grand Prix. And yeah, I think it is a combination of the not having to worry about the tyre temperatures and the strange strategy that the likes of Sebastian Vettel did. In fact, to be honest, I think this is something that we should have done on more occasions, which is doing the same strategy as the front runners. But I was always of the mindset that if you're not starting with the front runners, you may as well do something different. Sergio Perez has now set the fastest lap. But as it turns out, you know, if you do the same strategies as the front runners, well, the front runners seem to know what they're doing when it comes to race strategy. Because I mean, you know, because you'd imagine if they're forced to start on worn soft tyres, that they would rather not be. They'd rather start on some other tyres, but seemingly not. But then again, of course, if you are starting on soft tyres, even worn ones, you are going to have very quick lap time, at least initially. But Daniel Ricciardo is going to win the 2017 German Grand Prix, 4.3 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, and his teammate Max Verstappen in 3rd. Kimi Räikkönen is in 4th, and Kevin Magnussen is in 5th. I believe that's Kevin Magnussen's best finish this season, and in fact also the best finish that we've had this series in dry conditions. Romain Grosjean down in 16th place. I think Grosjean, he had a poor qualifying. He started in 19th, he's going to end in 16th. And I think also just did the wrong strategy. Felipe Massa in 6th. I think again another demonstration of how this circuit, more than any other, was a good demonstration of how equal this championship can be. Then you got Kvyat, Vettel down in 9th. He just did a poor strategy, stopped twice. I don't know what Vettel did. I'm sure I'll be able to look at the screen just before when I look back at this video when I'm editing it to find out exactly what strategy Vettel did, but it was very odd. And Grosjean, I think Grosjean just had a poor strategy. Who else started on the hard tyres? I can't honestly remember, but I don't think there was anyone who started on the hard tyres who fared well. Yeah, because I don't think Kvyat did, nor Massa. Yeah, I think Kvyat started on the softs. Massa might well have started on the mediums. And then, Sainz I don't know. And then I think everyone else didn't score points anyway. So it's irrelevant speculating what strategy they did because, well, they scored just as many points as Grosjean, which is none. Anyway, Grosjean, he has slipped down to below the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. He's now in 11th. And also, bad news for Grosjean, his teammate has caught up to him. Kevin Magnussen is now only 2 points behind Grosjean in the Drivers' Championship. But I think that's fair enough, because Kevin Magnussen, in qualifying at the very least in the past few Grand Prix, Magnussen's been better. Maybe just in qualifying, but you know, Grosjean's past form in qualifying has been abysmal. And that is where the cars are at the most equal, because that's when you have low fuel loads, everybody starting on the same tyres. That is when it really, well and truly is the equal cars championship. And the thing, I mean, honestly, maybe if you look at it, if you look at raw pace, the Sauber drivers are the best, or one of the best anyway, because they always seem to make it into Q3. And looking at the Teams Championship, you've still got Ferrari leading the Teams Championship, 28 points ahead of Mercedes. And I think the problem is that Vettel and Hamilton, much like in real life, they are the Drivers' Championship contenders. But Kimi Raikkonen has done much better than Valtteri Bottas, which is the exact opposite of what you would say in real life at the moment. And because of that, because Kimi Raikkonen has done much better than Bottas, that's pretty much the sole reason that Ferrari are noticeably ahead of Mercedes in the Teams Championship. Red Bull in third, Force India down in fourth, and they were leading the Teams Championship not too long ago. Williams, McLaren, Toro Rosso. Haas were in eighth, but we've gained a lot of ground on Toro Rosso. Even McLaren and Williams aren't too far behind. It is still feasible, especially if we keep up these decent finishes like we got at this Grand Prix and especially the previous one. It is possible that we could finish 5th in the Teams Championship, but to be honest, as long as we finish 8th, then that's fine. Because Gene Haas wanted us to finish 8th, we were expected to finish 8th, I've told Gene Haas that we're going to finish 8th. As long as we finish 8th, I haven't underperformed this series. This is just a reminder of how good our drivers are in comparison to all of the other teams' drivers. Apparently we've got the 5th best driver lineup. Apparently, I would argue that somewhat. But anyway, yeah, the 5th best driver lineup. So as I said, if we don't finish, well, as long as I don't finish below 8th in the Teams Championship, we haven't underperformed. But if I finish above 5th, then I've overperformed. I've exceeded expectations. The chances of me finishing above 5th are slim. I mean, we've done half the season and that's where we are, we're in 8th. Well anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to leave a like, comment down below, and next time it is my home Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. And looking at it, it looks like it's going to be the exact opposite of the Grand Prix we just had, because the previous Grand Prix was a very low tyre wear circuit with very hard tyre compounds. This track is a very high tyre wear circuit with the softest, almost the softest tyre compounds. Sure, it's 2 laps shorter, but it's going to be a very gruelling race, I think, and also one which won't play to our advantages, unlike the one just gone. I knew the one just gone would play to our strengths, and that's why I was looking forward to it. But anyway, yes, it's the British Grand Prix, my home Grand Prix, so I'm looking forward to it in Guildford. So, of course, it's not Silverstone. Of course, well, none of the tracks are real tracks. They're all fake ones. But it's in Guildford, which is odd, because that's not... I can't think of any racetrack that is in Guildford. The only thing I can think of that is in Guildford is Top Gear. I'm pretty certain the Top Gear studio and the Top Gear test track is in Guildford. So yeah, I guess by that logic we must be racing around the Top Gear test track, apart from the fact it's nothing like the Top Gear test track. There's no hammerhead, Chicago follow through, it's not a figure of 8 even. So it's nothing like the Top Gear test track, but anyway, yes, I'll stop talking about Top Gear, and yes, I will see you guys next time for the British Grand Prix in this equal Formula 1 Cars Championship here on Motorsport Manager. So I'll see you then.